Okay, so we're back here, and by the time you click on this video, you probably already know what's going on. The NHL. Hey, a tentative agreement. It looks like we're coming back January 13th. But because I kinda knew back when the news was released yesterday off of Twitter, I believe it was Friedman who broke it first, correct me if I'm wrong, but yesterday when I saw the initial tweet came out, I was like, okay, do I want to make a video about this right now? There are a few different options that we have here. We could either A, make a video immediately at the time that Elliotte Friedman's first tweet was released, or we could go over and actually wait a little bit for a few other tweets to go out. And I'll tell you right now, I'm recording this video at 8:30 p.m. PST, Friday, December 18th. It'll be uploaded in about 14-ish hours from now, so at 10 a.m. PST tomorrow, the morning of Saturday, December 19th. And in this video, we're going to be going over not just the initial tentative agreement that was apparently put into place, but a few other ideas that were mentioned by people in the media whom I trust as well. And furthermore, we have another idea that we'll save to the very end that is mentioned on the Ottawa Sun by Bruce Garrioch. So, Elliotte Friedman came out here with the tweet, the NHL, the NHLPA have a tentative agreement for what would be a 56-game NHL season. The NHLPA had a conference call that night, and the board call was going to be scheduled. Here's a tweet from Frank Saravalli just a little bit after that Friedman tweet. Talks about the same tentative agreement, which requires approval for training camps to open on January 3rd and a regular season to start on January 13th. The 7 NHL teams who did not make the 2014 return to play playoffs can open camp on December 30th. So that's Detroit, it's the 3 California teams, it's Buffalo, it's New Jersey, and it's Ottawa. All dates are subject to change, though, and the scheduling is not finalized. But, of course, you know, this is kind of what everybody is thinking is going to be put into place. We don't have any reason to doubt at this current time, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if things actually got accelerated a little bit, and we started to get a little bit more secure with all the protocols and all that, because the vaccine, it's starting to commission itself, and people are starting to get it. So thank you so much, Pfizer. Thank you so much, Moderna. But we have ourselves a few other tweets that I wanted to go over. These were released a little bit after, a few hours actually after the initial tweets went down, which is kind of why I didn't want to make a video right away. But if we go over and take a look at what David Pagnotta said, this is what the NHL's divisions will look like. We have the Canadian division, which includes Calgary, Edmonton, Montreal, Ottawa. Yeah, one of those should be Toronto. Sorry, David Pagnotta. Vancouver and Winnipeg. An Atlantic division with Boston, Buffalo, New Jersey, New York, Philly, Pittsburgh, and Washington. So there you go. There's your Atlantic division with Philly, Pittsburgh, Boston, and the New York teams all grouped together. A Central Division with Carolina, Columbus, Detroit, Chicago, Dallas, Florida, Nashville, and Tampa. And then the rest are going to be in the Pacific, which is Anaheim, Arizona, Colorado, LA, Minnesota, San Jose, St. Louis, and Vegas. So this is indeed a little bit more cohesive, I guess, than what we initially had as proposed by Greg Wyshynski a few weeks ago. But I think geographically this layout makes a lot more sense than what we had last time, where we saw, I believe it was like, St. Louis being thrusted in there with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and I believe it was the St. Louis Blues who were in there too, so it was kind of weird, the initial one that we did talk about, but this makes a lot more sense in my opinion geographically, and then he does say, of course, the second Ottawa is supposed to be Toronto, but Pagnotta also tweeted a little bit more about what exactly the plans are going to be for these other teams. Players have the option to opt out of this season, so if they're coming in here and they're saying, yep, I'm not gonna go, it's not safe, don't want to put my family at risk or whatever, then they have the option to opt out. And clubs can also have a small taxi squad to travel or practice with the players paid AHL salary unless they're called up. So, for the Vancouver Canucks, for example, the Canucks can have a group of guys like Jolin Chatfield and, I don't know, Brogan Rafferty or Justin Bailey, all just living in Vancouver or traveling with the team and practicing with the team. But they're only going to be paid AHL salary because they're not going to actually play the NHL games. The only time they would actually get paid NHL salary is if the NHL team ends up freeing a spot. Somebody gets deemed unfit to play, they get the virus or whatever, or somebody gets injured flat out. Once they get a guy who is thrusted into the lineup, that's when they'll start playing, that's when they'll start being given that NHL salary, but all the other guys are just taxi squad players who are getting paid AHL salary without actually playing for the AHL, because we've mentioned this a few times, but like the border, the restrictions, Utica is in America, Vancouver is in Canada, same thing with the Edmonton Oilers and their farm team as well, so there certainly are some obstacles to get around, but that's kind of why the taxi squad even exists. Then we also had ourselves a few other tidbits on how exactly the playoffs are going to be. The playoffs will be the top 4 in each of these 4 divisions. Each division produces a champion for the Stanley Cup semifinal. So what this means is we will have ourselves the top 4 in the regular season from the Canadian division, the Atlantic, the Central, and the Pacific. They will play probably, if I had to guess, maybe a 1-4-2-3 kind of system. Best 4 out of 7. Then eventually, you know, the winners of those matchups will play each other. And then once you have the final 4 teams, which will be the conference finals or the semifinals of the playoffs in general, it will be one of the Canadian teams, one Atlantic team, one Central team, one Pacific team. So if you're going out there looking for a Canadian Stanley Cup champion, then I'll probably break the news right here, man. It's probably not going to happen. They have a 1 in 4 chance of doing it because only one team will be guaranteed a spot in the final 4. But we do have indeed that format. It's made that way because, you know, Canadian teams can't cross the border, etc. Who knows if things will open up later, but that's kind of what we have now because the virus is still a thing, right? So we then had some other tweets after the NHLPA's call concluded. The call is over. The NHL and NHLPA agreement still needs to be papered, but a source says the NHLPA Executive Board is supportive of progressing under the terms as they were discussed with the NHL. So pretty much that means we need more verification, and then we had Chris Johnson here half an hour ago from the time of recording this video. The NHL's discussion with provincial health authorities on the proposed Canadian division are scheduled to resume tomorrow, or at least today when this video was going to be uploaded. The plan for these Canadian teams is indeed to have the 5 provinces work together to some extent to allow the 7 teams to play their games in home arenas. Per a source, right now 4 provinces are good, only 1 province had objections, and that was apparently BC because, yeah, of course, we'll get everything sorted out by the time today's conference call goes on, but yeah. So I just threw a boatload of information at you. That's all the stuff we've seen from the insiders. Again, I wanted to wait a little bit before we actually made a video because I thought it would have been a lot more compelling to just talk about stuff while it's going on. Plus, we have this other article here on Bruce Garrioch's Ottawa Sun piece that I think is really interesting to talk about, and it's not really big enough to make its own video, so I just wanted to throw this one in here because we're on the topic of the NHL coming back and putting up dates and all that stuff and setting things up. What about the draft? Because when it comes to the 2021 NHL draft, Garrioch is writing about how there's a possibility we could actually see it be pushed to December. And for me, that'd be cool, because December is when the ad rates on YouTube are the absolute highest, and the NHL draft is always the time where the YouTube channel gets the most views. So putting 2 and 2 together, having a draft in December would actually be really beneficial for me. But you know, that's only my own hedonistic point of view towards it, and I don't think a lot of people would actually appreciate hearing that. But we do indeed have the arguments proposed here in this article. A league source told Post Media you can't draft what you can't see. That's because you have a lot of leagues around Canada, around the world, that are shut down, that are not actually playing right now. For example, the QMJHL was shut down until January 8th. You have the Ontario Hockey League potentially starting in February, the NCAA doing things in pods. Switzerland, Finland, Sweden, Germany, and Russia, they're continuing, but they're also shutting down once in a while as well. So it's difficult to actually get a handle on how exactly this draft is going to be and evaluate the talent properly, I guess. So the theory is you might see a scenario where the NHL pushes the draft to December because it's going to buy NHL teams more time to evaluate players because many are doing work by video because their scouts can't go on the road or there's no hockey taking place at all. If these junior leagues do play in the early 2021 year, and then a December draft goes on, it would give NHL teams the first half of next season to evaluate players as well. It would give them a better handle of what they're looking at because the draft could be pretty tough based on what we've seen so far. I'll leave a link down in the description to this article as well because it goes over a few other very interesting ideas as to why in-person scouting is actually really valuable and all that, so go ahead, check that out. Plus, we've spoken a ton about the draft already, how the first overall pick is really up in the air. Could it be Owen Power, Brandt Clarke? Could it be Aatu Raty too? There are so many guys who are playing, a lot of guys who aren't, and it's gonna make this conversation a lot more muddy as the year goes on. So for now, this is our video. We spoke about the NHL coming back. A lot of the plans have been set in place, or at least they're tentative agreements that are looking to be what we should expect. But then we also have some agreements that need to be made, and we also had the idea of the draft potentially being pushed to 2021's December. So talk to me in the comments about all this stuff. I hope you enjoyed this Vishal 99, and bye.